Hi everyone, I'm back again with another video. I said the last time in my last video that in this video I'll be mainly talking about the later part of my career journey. In the last video, I'd focused primarily on my early career as an AI scientist, and how my entire psyche got shaped over time through all these years as I evolved from uh, a graduate statistician to a PhD in statistics and then a postdoc in statistics and with a primary concentration in genomics, bioinformatics, and computational biology. And then I said that I decided to leave US and come back to India. In this video, I'll be primarily focusing on the journey after I landed in India, and from that point till today, how this entire journey has been, my key learnings, experiences, and something that, that as a person I have evolved, sort of gotten the chance to evolve through all these years after coming back. This journey was, of course, very different from the one that I had in the early part of my career that I described in my last video. So I'll be talking about this later half of my career journey, and in the end, we'll also focus on some of my own understandings, learnings, and perspectives based on this journey that I've had. And hopefully, you all will be able to take something from this, right? So, without any further delay, I'll get on to the content of this video. So, as I was saying in the last video, that I decided to leave US after completing 2 years of my postdoc at Harvard, and I just decided to come back home in India. But the problem was that, considering the specialization in which I did my PhD and postdoc, which was mainly in genomics, bioinformatics, computational biology, that domain, which is a very niche domain actually. Very few people on this in this world work on this domain, and this domain has tremendous number of applications in multiple industry use cases, like primarily in the healthcare research and development sector, where drugs are discovered by different pharma companies, healthcare companies, right? Innovative medicines, and all these things. So this field has direct applications there, and of course the statistical underpinnings of all these problem statements that I had dealt while working in this field also has far-reaching applications in other areas as well outside the healthcare pharma sector. So, but anyway, the thing is, the domain being so niche a domain, uh, I just couldn't find any suitable opportunity when I decided to come back to India from US. So I stumbled upon like a fellowship opportunity in a government of India sponsored research institute in India, and that was the only chance for me to sort of come back home, which I was looking forward to. So, um, but it was risky a move, of course, because I was at Harvard, like with my career all sorted out there. I was working with the top scientists in that niche domain, and like collaborations, research projects. That entire environment and the vibe of that was something extraordinary. That is something that I had not seen anywhere else before coming to Harvard, right? So, and here I was, like, trying to take this decision to come back home to Kolkata, where I would have to give up that and take up something which I don't have any idea how it will work out, because, as I was saying, this niche domain had almost nothing in India. So there was zero opportunity. And I'm talking about like 2015, when I was taking this decision. when I had completed 2 years of my postdoc at Harvard, and then I was trying to come back. But it was a very tricky decision and a very risky one at the same time, because it was essentially equivalent to putting an end to my um, genomics bioinformatics, flourishing genomics bioinformatics career in the US, and simply signing up for something that I absolutely had no clue how would that work out, right? So after a lot of thought, I chose to come back home because I felt that if I'm not at peace with myself, if my heart doesn't pour into the work that I'm doing beyond a certain point of time, it's not worth anymore. And by that time, I'd already reached that point in my tenure in US, and that made the decision easy for me. And of course, there were many other people, my peers in US, many other friends who were telling me that it's a very bad decision. Don't do that, because you are a top level research scientist here at Harvard, and you have all the opportunities in the world that you can get from here. And the decision that you're about to take, it'll eventually mean that you are basically putting an end to your career and basically just getting your future doomed. Although this things from my peers and my friends in US sort of created some doubts in my mind, but I was very, very sure about this thing that, I mean, for me, being at peace with myself was way more important than trying to have a flourishing career at the cost of it. So, in spite of all those doubts and things being said by peers and colleagues and friends, mainly friends, I took that risk. I came back home to India. I started living with my parents in our home, and started working in this research institute on that fellowship, which was not even a permanent opportunity. It was basically a contractual kind of a thing, like a fellowship, which had a fixed tenure of 5 years, and you had to do something within that period. And if it works, then maybe you will get a faculty position in that institute, and if not, then you won't get. So you can understand the situation there I was. Nothing was guaranteed. And I knew that once I came back, the domain being so niche, I would not find anything in India, because there is just nothing here within that domain, right? But anyway, I started working there, and eventually I realized that although I was doing some unique research work in that institute as the principal investigator in research. Um, Eventually I realized that getting a faculty position would be very difficult here for a plethora of reasons, both political, non-political. I'll not get into the details of those things, but I figured out that I have come to a place which is basically like a well, and once you fall in it, you just cannot get out. So, and I realized that during my tenure there, and I was desperately looking for a way out of that place, because I knew, I mean, I would not get anywhere from here. There was no permanent job. There was no like potential future that I could see in that fellowship, and I knew it would just dry out in 5 years, and after that I would basically be left with nothing, because the domain being so niche and me not being able to find the right career opportunity, I'll basically be jobless. And at that point of time, I must say that it was a very unique learning experience for me. And I was seeing that here I was, like, doing my own research, focusing on that work. And I also knew that if this thing doesn't work out as a permanent job opportunity, I won't get anywhere. And the thing is that as a scientist, as a researcher, if somebody decides to come back from US to India, especially having worked in a top research lab in the US, it is a very rough ride for them because uh, of so many reasons. And to be honest, like there are very few people who actually take that risk because the consequences are, to be honest, fatal. Because it's like, as I was saying, it's like killing your career forever. But anyway, as I said, I mean, for me, it was a simple decision because I knew if I'm not at peace there and I don't see a peaceful future in US, I mean, I would just come back, and that's what I did. But anyway, um, I struggled for about 2 to 2.5 years there in that research institute, and I knew that it would not lead to any permanent job opportunity. Uh, and I was applying for jobs, but the problem was that if somebody returns from US to India in a temporary job, like a contractual job, like employers in India, they just look down upon you because they simply see this that okay, this guy doesn't even have a permanent job. So, I mean, why would we hire this person, right? And that's exactly what was happening with me. And I could absolutely see no future there. It was probably one of the hardest phases in the early part of my career after I moved back from US to India. But I must say something, in spite of this time being hard, I never stopped working on what mattered to me the most, meaning my work. There, my research work. I focused on that. I completed my research project. I sent that research, wrote that research paper, started sending it out to different journals in the field of genomics and bioinformatics. And of course, the thing is, um, in academia, one thing that always helps is that, especially for an early career researcher, is that if you are at a top lab and there is a fellow professor who is very senior, and that person is basically sort of, sponsoring your research or has a very high influence in the research community worldwide, it is much easier to publish papers in top journals. But if that is not the case, if you are not in a top research lab, or if you don't have any experienced professor who is basically guiding you, backing you, it's very hard to publish your paper in a top journal from India. And that's exactly what was happening to me. I mean, I was sending the research paper to various top journals, and they were simply not accepting that. Although the content of that paper was really solid, it was something that sort of had outperformed the previously existing gold standard benchmark in that problem statement in that field. But even though that was the case, the paper was not just getting accepted. And I remember all those frustrating times that I've had where I was constantly revising the paper in India without any backing from any experienced professor, basically like a lone researcher. And I was working on it all by myself. I didn't have any fellow folks who were assigned to me in that institute who could work with me on this project or something like that. And I was just working on it myself. But I knew I had to get it somewhere. I won't let this effort go in vain. That was very clear to me. And I that's exactly what I did. I kept working on it and I didn't give up. And what happened was that I sent it to a large number of journals, and after one point, there was a very top journal, like a really top journal in the field of bioinformatics and computational biology, who sort of said that, okay, this is a very good paper that you have written, and we propose this series of revisions that if you do, we will consider it. And I implemented all those revisions thoroughly. I still remember. And I sent that paper back to the journal. And I still remember it so interesting an experience. And as I said, I mean, I could see no future in that institute. I was already giving interviews, and luckily, Novartis in India, they saw my profile on LinkedIn and they decided to give a shot. on me. So they called me, their HR team called me, and they said that we have this position for you if you are willing to work with us. And I was like, man, this is amazing. Here I was, and I knew there was absolutely zero career opportunity for me being in that state after coming back from US, with absolutely zero future in that research institute. And here is Novartis calling me up with this opportunity. I didn't even care how much money it offered. I just said yes, I would be interested. And at the same time, uh, they had lined up my interviews. I had given the interviews. I mean, I they had lined up the interview dates and everything, the meetings with the manager and other employees at the Novartis Hyderabad office. And I still remember the day I landed in Hyderabad, and the very next morning was my interview in Novartis Hyderabad. And the last night before that interview date, I still remember I landed in Hyderabad in the last night, about very late in night, I think 10 p.m. or even later than that. And I remember checking into the hotel room, and I knew the very next morning is my interview at Novartis, and here is this one chance for me to get back into my career, into that career track. And I knew that if I get this chance, I will never turn back. So, but the interview was the next morning, and I still remember I was going to bed that night. Uh, and meanwhile, I'd also sent that paper that I had written in that research I was working on in that research institute to that this top journal. They had requested for the revisions, and I'd sent the revised paper back to them. And I was eagerly waiting for the comments after submitting the revised version. And just before going to bed that night, the, uh, I was just checking my mails. I did that every day just to see if they have written back to me with the results from that revision. And I was just reading um, the review summary from the journal based on the revised version that I had submitted. And I was saying, okay, the reviewers have written, yes, you have done great revision to this paper and all, everything's all fine. So my heart was really, getting happy. Okay, finally I'll be able to publish this paper that I have worked so hard on as a single dedicated researcher, without any team, without any support, any professor support, any institute support, nothing. I would finally be able to publish it to this big journal. But you won't believe, just after reading the first few lines, which had all the good words about the revision that I had submitted, then came the line where it said, but unfortunately, we won't be able to accept your paper in our journal. And that broke my heart. That just like crushed me. And I absolutely have no words to describe how I felt that very moment that night. And I knew the very next morning was my interview at Novartis Hyderabad. And I still remember that, okay, fine, I will not give up. Fine, I have done all the hard work to revise this paper so many times. And in the end, also, even though they liked my revision, they didn't accept it in their journal. And I knew that, okay, tomorrow morning will be a fresh day. It will start a fresh day. I will not give up. I will go to sleep. Tomorrow morning, I'll wake up and I'll try to do well in the Novartis interview. And we will see what to do with this paper. So, the next day morning, I woke up, I freshened up, I took a shower, went for the Novartis interview. Uh, by grace of God and through my sincerity, devotion, and hard work, all the interviews at Novartis went really well. And I came back from Hyderabad to Kolkata to work in that research institute once again. And then after a few days after giving the interviews, I still remember I went for the interview, I think around 25th June 2017. And I came back after giving the interviews. And just after, I think, 5 to 6 days after interview, probably around the end of June, 30th, 31st of June, probably just around that time, I heard back from Novartis and they said that they liked me and they would like to offer me a position in their company in Hyderabad. And I was like delighted. I have absolutely no words to express that how I felt that very day. And I still remember once I received that call from Novartis, I just went out um, outside my room in that research institute and I just pumped my fist in the air and said, "Yes, I did it. Yes, I did it." And I can't explain how I felt. I mean, it was such a big relief. It felt like, yes, finally, my career will now be back on track now that I have a permanent job offer from Novartis. And uh, I just after a few days from that day, they sent me the offer letter. I accepted it, and that very same time around, sort of, I decided, okay, I will now sort of put in my papers at the research institute, and I said I'm resigning and I'm joining this company, and just I still remember the day. It was 4th of so I think, yeah, I resigned from that institute on the 15th of August 2017, and I joined Novartis in Hyderabad on 4th of September 2017. I still remember the day vividly, and that day will forever be etched in my memory because I mean, I was just ushering into a whole new path in my life, in my career, and in a new city. And I was very, very excited uh, for it. So I joined Novartis and I joined as a manager in the health economics and outcomes research department within Novartis's uh, Hyderabad office. And for the first time, uh, I could finally feel the happiness of working in a permanent job. And I sort of realized that, okay, now I am in this role. The salary, of course, wasn't great. And I wasn't expecting that also because I was just expecting to get out of that well that was that research institute. And I was so happy to finally get out of that well. And I still remember just after I had joined Novartis, I decided to sort of keep working on that research paper and not give up. And around that same time, I had after the revisions from the from the submission in the last top journal, which they finally rejected, which one I was the experience that I was sharing just before. I decided to send it to another top journal in that field, and they also sent me back some revisions. I revised the paper accordingly, sent the revised version back, and by the kindness of God, and I'm so thankful for that, finally that paper got published in that top journal. And it was a single author publication without any support in that terrible struggling situation in that research institute, and I finally got it published in that top journal. And I was so happy, and I was so thankful, and I still am, to God, that and all my well-wishers, their blessings, that I could finally sort of, get my 2 years of hard work in that research institute in the form of that research paper in that top journal, which had been rejected by so many good journals in the past, in spite of the paper content being good and the revisions, and I could finally publish it in this top journal. And so I had joined Novartis, and the paper had also gotten published in that top journal. And I started working in Novartis, and luckily, by the grace of God, at Novartis as an early career professional in corporate, I had the fortune of getting some really great and evolved leaders who were, I would say, very spiritually uplifted people. And when I use this term spiritual here, I don't mean like people who are always doing, all kinds of this worship and things like that. Spiritual, not in that sense, but in the sense of this thing that they understand value in people who have it. And I could find such leaders guiding me in that role in Novartis. And I must say that their the learnings that I've had from them, the way they sort of help myself evolve, or like in that role at Novartis, and eventually also give me more senior opportunities in the company. I would always be grateful to them. And it's been um, 8 years, more than 8 years for me working in corporate after my PhD and postdoc in US. And I can say that, I mean, till this date, I haven't found any person in all these companies that I've worked who could even get close to these three people, these three leaders. I've had managers in other companies, of course, and I'm not saying that they're bad or anything, but I'm just saying that, I mean, those three leaders, I would say that I still miss their company at times. Um, they're like miss learning from them at times. But I would say the way they have shaped me, they have helped me evolve in Novartis, I would remember forever. So, under the guidance of these three leaders, I spent a tenure of 3 years in Novartis, Hyderabad, and I moved up from junior level manager to senior lead to a department head in AI at Novartis across multiple departments. And I my growth at Novartis was really stellar, to be honest, and I had a great career run there. I worked hard. I delivered the outputs and innovated multiple things using AI for different use cases across the different business functions of Novartis, and that definitely gave me that career boost there. I and of course the blessings of these three leaders were always there above my head, and their guidance also tremendously helped me in Novartis and still continues to help me in my career. So I spent 3 years in Novartis, and after spending 3 years, I decided to move to a different kind of role, more as a principal scientist. So me being a researcher, I always used to miss doing like proper core research at the intersection of AI, data science, and healthcare, biopharma R&D, primarily aimed towards like drug target discovery, de novo drug design, and early stage drug discovery and development. So that is the core niche area of uh, where I mean my PhD and postdoctoral tenure work sort of connects directly, right? So I always miss that. So after leaving Novartis, I decided to join GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, as a principal scientist, and my career sort of moved on from there. While at GSK, I realized that I have joined as a principal AI scientist. They're primarily working in the early stage drug discovery um, pipelines of GSK in collaboration with the core drug discovery, early stage drug discovery research teams of GSK in Europe and US. And it was a very good tenure. I mean, where I actually got the chance to work on some real life drugs on their early stage in the drug discovery pipeline, and produced results by developed AI models, statistical models, to sort of come up to do analysis of early stage biomarker data, genomics data, real world evidence data to some extent as well. And then those results eventually helped push those drugs in the towards the later stages of the clinical development cycle of them. So But after having spent after some time there, I wanted to move more towards a tech oriented role, which could either be a mix of a principal hands-on scientist and a lead, or a total lead, or just a principal scientist. So I was open to all these kinds of roles. And the main reason why I thought about that was that I always felt that being a statistician, right from my graduation days to PhD, postdoc, and after that, somehow the tech part of AI was always missing in my skill set, in my experience. And as time evolved, especially from 2017 onwards, one thing was becoming very clear, that AI and data science are evolving very rapidly in the global industry landscape across multiple industries. And just being a mere statistician who could write programs in R, um, or at max build softwares in R, packages in R, wasn't going to be enough. So I had to get on to this tech um, space, so that I could also learn that the engineering sides of it, and become a full-fledged AI scientist. So that's the reason why I chose to leave GSK in that pure play R&D AI scientist role, and then chose an opportunity which is at the intersection of healthcare and core technology, core tech. And this opportunity was in terms of a senior leadership role, a senior engineering leadership role, who would be managing the entire genomics health tech apps portfolio of a health tech startup named Inference. And I spent some time there, and my time there with the fellow full stack engineers, the back end front end engineers, the research scientists, the biologists, uh, gave me a very unique experience, which I was actively seeking out for. That would be in the intersection of my niche domain in genomics, bioinformatics, healthcare, and this core tech space with all the latest tech stacks involving, like, the latest programming frameworks, the 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 databases, and various other things, the API protocols, the APIs, and the entire tech orchestration, involving all these different components, and how all of them play out in basically creating a full-fledged application that could serve a large number of customers as per their requests, right? So my tenure at Inference really sort of, helped me evolve into this uh, full-fledged AI scientist eventually, where for the first time I was sort of learning all these core tech things, like names of new databases, like be it like SQL, NoSQL databases, different kinds of APIs, API protocols, and different kinds of programming languages, and the front end languages, the back end languages, the programming stacks powering uh, them together, and how they all come together in a certain system design to basically create and deploy these applications in production, right? So I really loved that tenure, and that eventually helped me get onto this um, AI scientist kind of a persona, who also knows multiple things. Like, that person can know statistics, that person knows tech, and also has a very unique expertise in a niche domain of genomics and bioinformatics. So this sort of paved my path to the next role that I sort of joined in Abbott Laboratories, where I joined as their head of the global digital transformation and AI charter, where I had to build their entire digital transformation and AI org for supporting their entire medical devices business from India. This was a whole new experience, because This was the first time I had to set up an entire AI organization ground up, um, in India for giant medical devices and health tech organization, Abbott Laboratories. So for this role, I had to move to Mumbai, and this was just after the COVID time had ended from 2020 to 2020, early 2022. And I moved into this role, developed the entire AI org for Abbott Labs in Mumbai, data science and AI org for Abbott Labs in Mumbai. And this role once again gave me a very different kind of an experience in terms of sort of site budget management, like working with the facilities team of such a giant company, going for site inspection to set up the office, hiring the whole org, like starting from the heads of the different verticals to the team members who would be rolling up to them, and also the stakeholder part of it, like constantly collaborating and communicating effectively with the different cross-functional stakeholders and explaining them AI and data science statistics concepts in a lucid way so that they can understand what we are trying to do and what's the exact value that we are trying to bring to the table with those offerings. And this role set me up for more tech oriented opportunities, and eventually I sort of moved from this role to my next role, which was at Walmart Labs, Walmart Global Tech, where I joined as the head of their ad tech targeting AI team, as the lead of that team. And Walmart's experience truly has been fascinating for me, I must say that, because the scale at which Walmart operates, the tech stacks Walmart use, and its unique positioning worldwide in terms of its omni-channel retail tech landscape, with all the cutting edge tech stack, the brilliant scientists, the data scientists, the data engineers, the machine learning engineers, who build all this together to basically power the company's core AI operations, is something truly mind-boggling. And I spent 2.5 years at Walmart in that role, and for the first time in my life, I got exposed to a certain kind of tech at that humongous scale, which I honestly had never seen before. And that was a truly enriching experience. I must say, we worked on a plethora of high impact AI projects, impacting critical business lines in that tech domain, and basically, essentially, empowering the company's bottom line. So it was a fun stint, I must say, for 2.5 years. And I'm extremely thankful that I got the opportunity to work on diverse array of problem statements at Walmart, and at that scale, working with some of the most brilliant minds that I've seen in my life, learning from them, then eventually, upskilling more and more in that AI space at that scale, right? It, with respect to such a giant company and for so many operations, right? So, yeah, I mean, that has how my journey has evolved. So I know I went through my career journey a little bit, probably in detail, probably. Hopefully you guys have not gotten bored, but I just wanted to be thorough in what I wanted to explain, and hopefully you guys learned something through this experience. And in the end, as I said, I'll touch upon some of my key learnings that I've had for both the two parts of my journey, the early career part that I described in the last video, and the later part of my career that I described today in this video. Uh, the most important learning that I've had is this, that a person needs to find his or her own unique calling towards creating something, towards building something. And this calling has got nothing to do with what the society, what the world expects out of that person. So you have to find your calling. You have to find what truly motivates you, what truly you love doing, what kind of work. So that is the kind of work you will simply get, for the lack of better word, addicted to. I mean, it has got nothing to do with money. It's just the passion and love for it. You need to find that out. And over the course of time in my career, I realized that what has really what has really paid me off through all this time was my immense love and passion for statistics and AI. And my innate curiosity to learn new things, to try building new things in spite of failures, try building new things, and things that are really awesome, things that when I build them, they provide me immense satisfaction. So that is something that I truly enjoy. That is what I actually love doing. And that still continues, right? So that passion and love for doing something is the most important thing that will keep you going. And you must remember that companies, any kind of opportunity is a mean to do something. It's basically a means to basically do something that you love doing, but not the other way around. Problem is that the entire world operates in a marketing oriented way, meaning that they will try to sell you this vision that, okay, if you join this company, this specific role, this specific compensation package, this, you get this status symbol, you can put it up on your LinkedIn profile, and that is the core thing that you should be running after. But let me tell you, that is one of the most worthless things to pursue. I can tell it from my own experience over all these years that at one point of time, I used to blindly pursue it as well. Like many of you probably already do, or still are continuing to do. I used to blindly chase higher designations, more senior titles. And there is no problem with ambition. That's not what I'm saying. There's no problem with ambition. Be ambitious, but not for the sake of the company, but for the sake of yourself, for your own development. And there is a critical difference between these two things. Majority of us, we get into this illusion that is sold to us by the marketing, the PR efforts that goes around worldwide. And I'm not blaming these efforts, because that is indispensable for a business to run, right? If the marketing arm of a business is weak, that directly impacts the bottom line, because people will not be excited to either work there or to buy their products, that company's products, right? So it's essential for them. It's not a bad thing for them. But it's on us how we take that. Which specific part of our life needs to interact with that. So this is something that I've learned, that one should never make a role in a company sort of a part of their own life. It's a means to do something that you are passionate about doing, that you love doing. And that's why you engage with that company, but not the other way around. And it's not just with company, with any other professional thing that you do, it's always important to understand this distinction. You must find your own unique craving for doing something extraordinary, for doing something amazing. And that doesn't necessarily need any external validation. And this is the second most important learning that I've sort of finally learned over all this years experience, is that Don't ever chase external validation in whatever form, from a person, from an influential person, influential body, anybody, right? Don't do that. It'll only dilute your own self, your own self image, and make you feel like you're nothing, you have done nothing in your life. It's the most worth, like, it's the most worst thing, worst feeling to have. But the problem is that the entire world, the marketing, the societal pressures, the peer pressure, this entire thing, this conditioning is constantly at work so that they can make you feel this way. And I realized that much later in my career that, yes, this is an illusion. I mean, you don't need anybody's validation to prove that you are good. If you are good, you will find it in your own happiness. You will find it in the satisfaction of that point of time when you complete some work on which you have been working for months or maybe years, and that work finally becomes successful and probably will find some productive application. That is the thing to be happy about. You don't need to go to someone and ask that, hey, is my work good? Tell me, please validate me. That person will probably use you for his or her own self-interest. And you will end up feeling, oh my goodness, there are so many more things that I have to do. And this just creates a constant running kind of an attitude in yourself, and that constantly detaches you from your core self, the very self that you once had used to live as a kid, when you used to just roam around freely, play with your fellow friends back in your childhood days. Think about those times, how you were. At that time, all this marketing had absolutely zero influence on you because you didn't care. At that time, if a person had come to you and say that, okay, join this company, you get the status symbol, you would have said, what does status mean? Right? So that's the thing. So these two are my major learnings. And I would finally end this video by saying that now I constantly try to follow this path of learnings that I've had over all these years, and try to genuinely focus on things that truly matter to my core self, that truly serve my core self, and not things that detaches me from my core self and serves others for their benefit and not mine. And that thing is very clear to me now. And that's how I would love to work in future, indulge in things, engage in things that serve me genuinely in future. And that's what I would earnestly request all of you to do as well. Find your calling, figure out your dreams, pursue your path of dreams. Thank you. Signing off.